All right, everybody, so we're going to be working on Photoshop assignment number 1, which is layers. Layers being probably the most important thing that I can teach you in Photoshop, because not only will you utilize it during this activity, we're going to use layers for pretty much everything we do in Photoshop. So I'm not going to click this and open it up and show you the instructions, simply because this video is basically going to explain everything that you see in here, and I have some updates that I want to make to this anyway. So step 1 in this is going to launchpad.classlink.com/seals and signing in to ClassLink. So that gets us into ClassLink pretty quick and easy. Remember that we always go to My Files, which opens up a new window up here, as you can see. We click Manage Services, and we just verify that the green check is here so that we're able to save in Google Drive. Next step, go into Remote Application. And this will bring us up a sign-in window. So it's your username at seal-pa.org and your password. And so here we are. So obviously we want to work in Photoshop, but remember, before we open any of these applications here, we always have to turn the drive file stream on. So this is kind of like a switch. So if we go ahead and click this and say allow, hopefully within a short amount of time here, this will open up. We're waiting for this to turn green up here. When we see it turn green, that's a pretty good sign that things are going in the right direction. We have had some issues with drive file stream crashing. So there we go, we have green. So hopefully in the background, this is going to load. So just give it a few more seconds. So there we go, the sign-in came in for drive file stream. You're going to log in with your username again. So it will be 27 last first at seal-pa.org, or 26 or 25, depends on your year of graduation. So MS Tech Ed student at seal-pa.org. Password, you're just going to go ahead and enter the password. And with a little bit of luck here, in a few seconds, we're going to get the drive file stream to pop up. So just remember, we always have to do this every single time before we do an assignment. And with me talking, it took me less than 3 minutes. So it's not a deal breaker, not the end of the world. When I close that, you will see that the window, the actual File Explorer window, pops up in the background here. All right. And you can leave this up, you can close it, it doesn't matter. I'm going to close it for now. Just know that you can very easily get that to pop back up. Don't hit Drive File Stream again. If you just hit File Explorer, this is just like hitting File Explorer on your computer. And there it is. So there's Drive File Stream. There's the T drive, which we'll need eventually. You'll see your Z drive on there as well too. All right, so moving on. Back to all resources. We're going to open Adobe Photoshop. So this opens fairly quickly as well. You will find out that if about 30 seconds goes by and you don't see anything pop up on the screen, one of the things that I'll have you do is always click back over to here, because there is a window open right now, and sometimes an application gets hung up behind that window. You can see that it popped to that other screen, and there it is. It's actually behind the window here. So if some time goes by, you can move this window out of the way. Don't be afraid to do that. That's not going to hurt anything. You're not going to lose it. You're just sort of getting it out of the way. You have to log into Photoshop or Adobe as well. So MS Tech Ed student at seal-pa.org. You'll have to do this every time, unfortunately. Usually it makes you add your username a second time. Let's see if it does or not. Yeah, there it is, a second time. So, whoops, I keep adding my school. There we go. And password. So at the end of the day, about 5 minutes of your time is taken just trying to get logged into the program that you need to use. And the good news is once you're in, but it does take some time. I like to expand this so that we can see what's going on. The other thing worth mentioning, if you are on a Chromebook, the amount of information that you can see on your Chromebook is less than you can see on this. So because we are connecting through a web browser, you can go up here to the 3 dots stacked on top of one another, and you can go to zoom. Normally I run this at 100%. For you guys on Chromebooks, 90 or 80 might be a better option for you. So I just want to throw that out there, okay? It just gives you a little bit more stuff that you can see. So we are going to create new in this situation right here. And the first thing we're going to do is go over here. We're going to change it to pixels as opposed to inches. This is really important. If you leave it as inches, when I put 800 in here, you don't want something that's 800 inches wide. That's going to cause some problems on our server. So make sure that it's pixels. And we're going to do this as 600. So 800 pixels wide, 600 pixels high, and a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. Everything else you can leave the same and click create. If you can't find the create button, everybody, it's because your screen isn't large enough to show it. So you may have to come up here and drag this window up a bit. You may also have to go into here and zoom out a little bit to maybe 80 or 70%. The create button is definitely there. All right. So go ahead and click create. And there we are. It opens it up. Now, the one thing that's a little bit annoying about running Photoshop remotely is we're supposed to see something down here that says layers, and it just won't show up by default. So if you go up here to window, workspace, essentials is checked, which is good. It's the default. You also want to come down here to reset essentials. And lo and behold, there shows layers up. All right. It's something that we have to do on a all the time because of us running it remotely. It's annoying, but it is what it is. If layers doesn't show up, you can also go up here to window and just make sure that layers has a check by it. All right. Next, I'm going to have you go down here. There's a garbage can. Don't click that. But right next to the garbage can, there is a little create a new layer button. You're going to create 3 of them. So I clicked it once, I clicked it twice, I clicked it a 3rd time. I'm going to double click where it says layer 3, and I'm going to call this a blue ellipse. I'm going to double click where it says layer 2, and I'm going to call this a red circle. I'm going to double click this, and I'm going to call it a green square, right? And if you right click, which is on the right hand side of the mouse, I can label this. So I'm going to make this one blue. I'm not using a mouse, I'm using the trackpad, which is I'm not the greatest with. I'm going to make this one red, and this is just a label. It actually doesn't color what's inside of it. Make this one green. It just helps you recognize it a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get into our first part of our drawing. So if we go to the, I'm going to make sure I'm in the blue ellipse layer. How do I change layers? I literally just come over here and click, and it changes the layer that I'm in. I'm going to be in the blue ellipse layer, and I'm going to go to the second tool down, and I'm going to click and hold that button down, and the elliptical marquee tool pops up. And I'm just going to, sorry guys, I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to draw an ellipse. So make it look like an egg, okay? Over here, this is your delete that. There we go. This is it for you guys. If you can't see a lot of your menu here, sometimes you'll get a little like bar, a slider bar over here that you can slide up or down to see what you're missing below here. But I'm not missing anything. So on this one, I am going to do, I'm going to click the foreground layer here, and I'm going to choose a blue that I like. So if I slide the slider bar here, you can pick different shades of blue. Just find something that you like, click it. You see it grabbed it here, and just say okay. And now I can go edit, fill. You have to change content aware to the foreground color because that's the foreground color right there. I'm going to say OK, and there it is. All right. The little marching ants is what I call them. That is a marquee. To get rid of the marquee, you can just do select and deselect. All right. So we did layer 1, our blue ellipse. We're going to click into red circle, and we're going to just keep the same elliptical marquee tool. This time, to draw a perfect circle, we're going to hold the shift key down as we draw, and check it out. All you can draw is a perfect circle. So I'm going to go back to my blue. I'm going to come up here and choose a shade of red that I like, so maybe something a little more fire engine red. I'm going to choose that and say OK. Edit, fill with the foreground color because it's red down here. I'm going to say OK. Select and deselect gets rid of my marquee. All right. I'm going to goof up my third layer here. I'm going to forget on purpose to click into the green square layer. All right. I'm going to show you guys how to fix an error if you make it. So I'm going to go to my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to make not just a rectangle, but I want to make a square, which is equal sides. So to make a perfect square, I'm going to hold the shift key down and just drag. All right. Sorry about that. I actually bumped the pause button on my screen capture. I'm going to click red and change it to a green. Choose a green that I like. I'm going to say OK. Now, on purpose, I forgot to choose the green square layer. I left it in red circle, which you guys will likely do at some point or another. So edit, fill with the foreground color, and you're going to see, uh-oh, I put it in the wrong layer. Not a huge deal. In Photoshop, you can always undo things. So if you do edit, undo, fill, it takes it away from here. I can go into the green square layer, and now I can go to edit, fill with the foreground color. And I can do select and deselect. All right. Now, a couple things I want to show you here. You can turn your layers on and off, which is not something you can do in a normal drawing program. If I click the move tool and I'm in the green layer right now, I can move that green layer separate of the other ones. I can move the red layer separate of the other. I can move the blue separate of the other. Now, the one thing I want you to notice blue is above red, red's above green. Over here, blue is above red, red's above green. So if you're like, well, what if I'd rather green be in between blue and red? All you've got to do is grab that layer and slide it in between there, and check it out. Now, green is in between the blue and the red layer. So this is a great program when you have to move things from the foreground to the background, which we will absolutely do as we move forward. Okay, so there's that. The last layer that I want you to do is I want you to add your name. So we're going to go to the text tool right here. We choose the text tool. Go ahead and click this. And I want you to add your first name and your last name. Sorry. Sometimes you have to double click that. First, last. Now that's really hard to see. So if I highlight that text, just like if you would in like Microsoft Word or something, if you highlight it and you come up to here, you can very easily change that font size to something bigger. If 72 is the biggest that it shows on there, but if you're like, nah, I need it to be 100. All you gotta do is hit 100, hit enter, and there it is. You can change the text font, or the font, sorry. You can change the font. So maybe you pick a different font that is something that you would like a little bit better. That one's kind of boring. I don't like that one. There we go. That one's nice. You can change the color. So you can go up here to purple. Maybe you want a purple, and you can change the color, right? And then just hit the check, and there it is. Your text is in its own layer. You can go in and you can actually move your text with a text tool, okay? If you want to go back and you want to edit your text at a later time, you have to make sure you're in the text layer. You have to make sure you have the text tool selected. And then I like to click in between the first and the second letters till I get a cursor there. And then I just highlight everything. So I want to show you guys one final thing here. Let me change this text color to something that's a lot harder to see, right? So if you choose that, you're like, that doesn't show up very well. Let me show you a really cool technique in order to make this show up really well. So if you go over to the text layer and you right click it, and you right click it, there we go, that's what I was trying to get it to do. Blending options, we're looking for blending options. Looks like it's probably up here. There we go, blending options. When blending options pop up, these are a whole bunch of different techniques and additions you can add. So I always use this outlines your text. So if you click that, you'll see that it puts an outline on it. If you actually click the word itself, you can play around with the qualities of it. So I'm going to make this on the outside. I can make this thicker or thinner, whatever you so choose. I'll make it like 2. You can also just type it in, make it 2. You can change the color if you want. So maybe I want to go with that two-tone and I go with a purple color. So I always outline, I always hit stuff with a drop shadow too. And you can just sort of see that it put it on there. It's defaulting to multiply. Normal makes it look a little bit better. The opacity is only at 35%. We want to make this up to 100 so you can see what's going on. And as I start to pull the distance away from this a little bit, you can see it starting to show. Pull the spread out here a little bit, maybe the size out here a little bit. And you can change the angle, so it basically changes the angle of where the sun is at so that you can change where your drop shadow is showing, right? So if I just say, okay, you guys can play around with that. There's lots of other things that you can add to it as well too. If I roll down here to my text, you'll see that it puts an effect on it. If I turn the effect back off, you know, it obviously, it really shows up a lot better with that on there. One other quick thing that I want to show you. When I'm in the text layer, if I come up to here, right now this text layer doesn't have any style. I can give it a little style. And there's a lot you can choose. I'm just going to choose an arc. I'm going to arc it the opposite way. And I'm going to say okay. All right. So I'd like you to at least do some effects on your text layer. You can also go back in on any one of your other shapes here that you have, and you can right click it and go to blending options, and you can do it on those as well. I'm not going to, for the sake of keeping the video as short as I possibly can. Now, we have to save this, and we probably should have saved it a little sooner, but you know, you want to do that as often as you can, just in case we have an issue with the server. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Save As. On your computer, this may be hidden down here so you can't see anything. I get a lot of kids, they'll send me an email like, I can't find any of the buttons. They're there. They're actually down here, and you have to move this up a little bit. You want to choose Save on your computer as opposed to the cloud. On here, I always go up to this PC. All right. And from there, I want to find my Google Drive file stream, which is right here. So I'll go ahead and open that up. You're going to open up My Drive. You're going to open up Classroom. And you want to find your Tech Ed class. So this is right now for my Period 1, 7th grade Tech Ed. So I'm going to open that up. And you can see I already saved one in there. I'm going to save this as my first name, my last name. I'm going to call this one Layers 2, just so I have a second one. And I'm going to click Save and say OK. Now, it should be in your Google Drive at this point. It absolutely should. So when you go back to, you've finished the assignment, you're totally done, how do you hand it in? You're going to go back to Google Classroom. You're going to click the assignment, view the assignment. Over here is where you turn it in. So under your work, I want you to click Add or Create. And if you click Google Drive, it's going to take you out to Google Drive for the file that we just put there. So you worked recently. Here it is right here. There's my first, last Layers 2. There's the previous one that I was working with as well too. So I'm going to choose my first, last Layers 2. I'm going to choose Insert. You can see it uploading to right here. And the final thing you have to do is click Turn In. And voila, it is there. If you're like, I messed it up, you can unsubmit it and you can return the assignment back in at a later time. This should take you from the beginning to the end with how to do the first assignment called layers. Take your time, guys. If you're struggling, you have to go back, especially if you're remote. You have to go back and watch this video again. Please ignore these instructions, by the way. I'm going to change these before you guys get the real assignment. But in any case, pause that video, go back and rewatch it. Remember that zooming that window in or out can be very helpful for you to see things that you're not able to see. I hope you guys have good success with this. I hope you learn to enjoy Photoshop. It's a really fun program. And we will continue on with another assignment as we move our way forward. Have a good day.